So I've been back in Vilnius since Wednesday. I visited my land once without the GoPro camera. And now I'm getting ready to go back. Last time I realized I forgot a lot of things, so I'm spending extra time moving things from different pockets around to where they should be. I've been bad about updating with my GoPro since it's been tucked away in my bag. Now that I'm unpacked, I can show you the work we did yesterday. Otherwise, today I'm gonna try to get to work with these soil block makers that I bought in Germany. You fill soil and it makes these soil blocks, so I won't need plastic. Otherwise, this is the same place Rygaudas let me sleep in last year, though now it's made quite a bit of progress. Before I was sleeping, there was no door here. It was all just an open room, and I was just sleeping on a mattress on the floor. Now this room is really cold. We keep the door closed, and yeah, there's heating now. Here I purchased a number of seeds from France. These are all things that I want in my forest garden, and I've labeled how to propagate them. And here are some cherry seeds and grape seeds, and I don't know what the name of that is in Lithuanian. That I've already cold stratified over winter, so I'm going to try to make some headway and plant as many of these as I can, though there's some more work that needs to be done. So I just got myself a tray. I think I can plant these seed blocks directly into here, and we're using these old bags. So here's what the land looks like since returning. So here's some of the things that I notice are peeping out. I forgot that I planted garlic here, and all throughout here I planted it in the straw, and here it's sprouting. Here I've got some, here. So I'm excited to see what garlic harvest I'm gonna get. I covered the soil with leaf mold compost before I left last season, and especially in the greenhouse, I notice it's having not the exact effects I want. It seems like there's moss forming, and I don't think that's ideal for growing plants. However, here's what Rygaudas and I built yesterday. We dug a pallet in as a support, and this is going to be a seed station area, because I'm thinking this year I'm not going to grow vegetables in it like I did last year. We're not focused on that, but try to start fruit trees and just everything to start. And so we got some peat. Ideally, we'd like to be able to dig this stuff up, but we're in a hurry, or I'm in a hurry, to plant as many things as possible since I got here late. And the rocket stove, it's dried mostly. I realized I threw the straw down here, and the wetness from the rocket stove never fully dried out underneath, and so that kind of compounded, and so I had to move the seat here, but this stuff got moldier, so these are some things I need to try to reduce wetness before leaving. So I'm going to get started trying with these soil block makers by mixing up a batch of everything here. So here I'm mixing together the soil recipe. So using what I have, I'm going to try the first batch with 2 buckets of neutralized peat, 2/3 bucket of perlite, 2/3 cups vermiculite, 1/3 bucket of better soil from the garden, 2/3 bucket of compost to add some microbial life. Next, I gotta stir it up. Get my hands dirty. That it's mixed, the last thing to do is to add water and let it sit for about an hour. It should become more stable. I think I got it wet enough. So now to give it an hour, and then I'll come back and try it with the soil block makers. So let's see how this works. I filled this up with the soil, and let's see if not bad. Feel like I gotta pack it down a bit more, but here I've got some already seeded blocks, and since certain seeds require different kinds of soil, using this little box here to mash up some clay and soil along with some ashes from there to add some alkalinity. So here's a whole tray of apples. Made some progress. I've labeled all of these from this side. I still have to label these. So these are soil blocks of varying quality and materials. I've constructed these trays and I've tied them so they hang tight. And I'm going back to planting. I pre-soaked some acacias and schizandra yesterday. I got up and now I'm planting peaches. Next I'm going to do some cherries. Then I've got a whole bunch of other seeds. I'm also going to try out the stacked method to give these fruit trees more room to grow. Did that with the same with the plums. Next, I'm going to seed out these vegetables in these smaller trays. I started planning out where the house will be. I'm starting to measure out the size of things, like this rocket stove, 45-ish centimeters wide. I'm heading towards where I'm planning out to build my house. I already marked it out. It's about 3 meters from here to the other side. I think I might make it a tad bit more, but the rocket stove would go here, and the burn chamber would be around here somewhere, and the door would be through here. So I'm trying to get a feel for how big, how small I can make this and not feel claustrophobic. I want to make it at least this tall about the ceiling, and I'm thinking of having a second story mezzanine where my bed will be. So the rocket stove would be up to here with, I don't know if it would be clay or what to support the roof. I'm off to the Castle Hill forest to get some compost. So ideally, I'd want to have my own compost prepared for planting seedlings, but I already used it all, so it's something I'm gonna have to prepare for next year. But in the time being, I'm gonna get some of it from right here. Rygaudas returned from Vilnius with these trays he got marked down because they're chipped here. Otherwise, it's nighttime. He also came back with some RTV silicone, which is apparently usable for making inoculation lids. So right now I'm going to apply it onto this hole here, and I've got some gauze. I hope that this will suffice as polyfill. And yeah, so once this dries, I'll be able to poke a syringe through the hole to inoculate the whatever I have in here, whether it's sawdust, grain spawn, or liquid culture. Today I'm going to try to fix these sides. As you can see, it's falling apart here, and I'd like to make the rest of this garden bed similar to that, so I don't compress this area here. Otherwise, this morning already I planted these. There's asparagus here, rue, and Florence fennel. And now the task is clean these off and try to hammer them in. So these guys offer like very little to no stability. Instead, I chopped up this and I'm gonna try to lay this down. I'm gonna try to secure this into this area here. I might need to excavate a bit. Here I just chopped off a little bit off the top, hammered it in. I guess I can find a use for these logs to fill in the space because I don't have enough soil, but otherwise it should be pretty sturdy. So yeah, I added this in, and as I've been adding the soil, you can see it's bending out a little. Oh well. And now I'm impatient, so I'm just gonna do the rest of these. So I'm pretty happy. So this is looking, cover this in. Then I can fill the soil up a little higher here, and it'll be closer to a raised bed. There. That's good for today. Now that there's so much room here, I could even extend this side out, similar to how this table is here, so that it would be reachable from here. And then this would be just another side. I'm thinking of having another table here because Rygaudas is going to store his seedlings here as well. Today has been a prep day for mushroom log inoculation. Unfortunately, realizing it's still going to be too cold for log inoculation. However, today I extended this ditch to divert water into this area here. We're gonna devote this area to growing mushrooms. We might also grow it on my grounds. This is next to Rygaudas' house. So we're going to move these logs, and then in the summertime when the trees have leaves, this area here will be shaded. And for hopefully tomorrow we can start inoculating the logs, at least with the oyster mushrooms, because I read that the dowels only survive for about a month, and it's coming to around about a month since I bought them. So I want to get some in ASAP or to multiply some. So I'm also looking into getting some grains from the neighbor or sawdust from the carpenter to try to multiply from the dowels into whatever medium so that I don't have to buy them again. And so the idea for, at least for these initial logs, is we're gonna stack them over there, maybe on top of pallets, and then put this guy over it and then cover it with more trees, and hopefully we can force some of this moisture into here, extending the ditch, and we'll see what comes of it. I think I'm going to do now is gather some dried wood and bring it over to my land so that I can test out the autoclave that we bought. I tested it out yesterday with a small dinky electric heater plate, but it didn't get hot enough, I don't think. And so I'm gonna try it over my mini rocket stove with fresh wood. So here I'm back at my place. Here's the autoclave we purchased, and here's my wet rocket stove, which I partially cleaned out earlier, but it's pretty wet. Let's see if I can get this started and get that hot enough to 15 psi's, but it doesn't show it in psi since it's Belarusian. It's got megapascals, and it confused me the most because I wasn't sure if that was Cyrillic or Latin. Anyways, 0.1 millipascal is around 14.5 psi's, so I need 0.103 if I can gauge that. So here I'm trying to light my first fire of 2020 on the rocket stove, and see if I still got this in me. Okay, just closed you off. Let's see how you burn. I'm gonna play around with some different options to also support this guy on top. I'll see if I can get the wood to not burn on the sides so that it can support it. Here's a little innovation. And let's see how you fit. So I just gotta turn around, but there's 2 jars in here with potato starch solution, and it's tightened on good. Let's see how, and if this burns. I'll have to tend it. There, turned it around. I realized when I give it a few good puffs, it gets going more. I just need to find a better way than blowing with my mouth. Now that it's going, my job is to feed sticks constantly to get this baby as hot as possible. Hopefully these burn, seeing if it even helps. Oh look, yesterday's forecast is the same as today's forecast. Sunshine and good vibes. It's funny to think that a year ago, to me, this was unapproachable territory because this was so filled up with logs. And throughout the year, like last year, I cleared off a lot of these pines just to see what would the effect be on the soil. And throughout the past spring, I'm noticing in certain places I'm getting nettles more than I'm used to in my soil around, and I'm actually really happy with that because nettles, it's an indicator of better soil, and it's very tasty and healthy. This seems to be taking way longer than it normally would in the summertime because this morning when I tried to disconnect these blocks, it was so cold that they're frozen, and the whole stove has been sitting under rain the whole season, so it's drying out everything and changing the entire heat of this entire stove table. Furthermore, I probably should have changed out the water because this thing has been sitting outside since yesterday. The bottom part is hot after almost 10 minutes, whereas the top part is still cold. And it's dripping water underneath, which is slowing it down. So what I learned yesterday about using pressure cookers via YouTube is, first, this needs to heat up, but most important of all, the lid needs to be on super tight so it does not blow off. And then once it gets to very hot, I will have to bleed the air out so that the steam can fill the entire container, because so that helps with the sterilization process, whereas empty air in here does not. And then afterwards, I'm gonna have to let it cool down. I'm running back to the house because I need some sort of a timer, like my phone, to record that it needs to be exactly 15 minutes. Running back, and I'll see that this is smoking, but not exactly burning. If I understand this correct, as this heats, I just need to release this air until I see steam coming out, and then I'll know that it's been bled. The fire is going, though I think it's going a little too much. I hope I'm not doing any long-term damage with this. If I listen, you can either hear the traffic on over the hills, or sometimes it sounds like the vaporizing of water inside the tank. It's pressurizing. Oh yeah, it's getting louder and louder. Holy cow, the pressure gauge is finally moving. I need to finish bleeding it. It's working! So, assuming eventually visible steam is going to come out. Now imagine the pressure is going back down. I guess it's got more heating to do. Let's take a look at this. It seems to be letting steam out. Yeah, that's clearly steam. Okay, I need to set my timer, so as soon as it hits comma 1 and a little past, I hit start, and it should go 15 minutes, no longer. It seems to be very slowly rising, only when I'm making sure it's being flamed. Only when there's like a hot fire going. Otherwise, I don't know if it just takes longer or it doesn't reach 15 psi unless there's a certain amount of energy going into it. Persistence. This is taking a long time and a lot of work to keep it fed. It's climbing up to 0.4. This has been, what, almost 45 minutes or so, maybe 50. Also doesn't help that I'm doing this outdoors when the wind is blowing a lot of the energy away. In the last 5 minutes, it started climbing a lot faster. Here, it seems like every 30 seconds or so, it bumps up halfway to the next one. Soon I'll be there. It's almost there. It's going way faster than I expected. It's getting there. So it just reached 0.1. Now I will have to play with the pressure to make sure it goes back down once it goes higher. Another thing I can do is to remove logs because it seems to need a lot of it to come out. Pressure's still going up and up. I need to slow this fire down. I think I've found a steady flame which doesn't seem to be bumping the pressure up. Now I just need to maintain this. 2 minutes to go. So this has been a little bit of going back and forth, either letting a weensy bit of pressure out or adding some more wood back into it and playing this balance. And see where a butane stove would be a lot easier if you just find a consistent heat and just let it on its own. It'd be more efficient than this. So the timer went off. I'm leaving this here to depressurize, and I need to pour some water or something over this. This thing got really freaking hot. I just poured a lot of water over it, and it's still steaming, still hot as hell. Oh, I tugged this thing back here. It's really heavy. And the pressure has gone down to one natural state, but it's still super hot. I'm gonna wait until it cools down to open it up and see what happens. So now the pressure cooker is finally cooled down. I'm gonna open it up, and then right away I want to inoculate the lids before they get contaminated. So now this. No, you can come closer. This won't what this is.
You might need to release the pressure or something.
There shouldn't be any more. Oh. There is pressure. Let me just put this back on.
On.
Oh, okay. Wow.
What's cooking?
Alright, where? Okay. Now Now I will try to sterilize you. Go in there. About 2 cc's. Okay, that's in. Next one. This one I'm done differently. Quick and dirty method. Okay. Inoculated. Today we're finally going to inoculate this alder tree with blue oyster mushrooms. And for starts, I'm gonna have to tape off the tip of this so I don't drill too much in. These logs were soaked yesterday for about 8 hours, and it's still pretty early in the season. However, we prepared a spot over there under a cloche with a bunch of stuff over it to try to maintain the heat. Otherwise, I'm worried that these things are going to die. So I already got one of them in, and here's the process. And then down the line. Got all the holes in. Rygaudas is hammering the dowels in before adding the wax. Here in this first log, we're doing oyster plugs. Not sure what kind of oyster plugs. But finished with the first log. Now we're waxing the sides. Yum, yum, yum. The first row. Almost. These are the blue oyster, or blue-gray oyster. So we just inoculated 3 logs, and I just stuck them underneath here. They're on this pallet, and now I'd like to throw some more insulation material on top, and just to keep it dark. I hope that should suffice to keep it warm. Another day, another log. So now I'm about to hammer in. These are shiitake plugs, and this is an oak that we found yesterday. So this is a pretty small log, but it's long and it's done. Hopefully it'll live. I'm setting up outside. I want to use up the rest of these shiitakes and knock some more out while I'm at it. I still need to wax these on. And here's some box elder maple, which is an invasive species here in Lithuania. So we can cut it down. And it's got a lot of this lichen on it, which I heard is not good. So I'm trying to use this boot cleaner to clean this off. And it's working exceptionally well here. Except I need to be careful where it's cutting it. Here, while the wax is drying, before I can finish these edges, I'm getting started with the Indian oyster. I'm heading back to Vilnius later today, though before I leave, I want to sterilize these jars with grain spawn. And so I'm using this guy again, though I'm going to save myself some time. I already added some boiling water in here to raise the temperature of this whole thing. I'm going to empty the water out, add some more boiling water in, and then carry it over to my land to heat it up same as last time. Except this time I think it needs to boil for longer. Maybe like 90 minutes. Here I'm adding a bit of honey. I heard it helps with the mushroom spawns to grow. We'll see how it goes. I'll try it with some of them, not all of them. This thing is super heavy. Oh, it should hopefully heat up quicker than last time. Hopefully this wood didn't get wet. What I'm going to do is add some vermiculate to these. There, the vermiculate's in some of them. I hope they're moist enough. Now to sterilize. Doing this again. Unlike last time, I only did it for 15 minutes. I read somewhere that should have been at least 25 minutes. This time I'm going to try to do it for an hour. Hopefully I've got enough wood. I think so. This guy's already warm. Quite a while to get here, though it's at 0.103, or it's a little over 0.103 psi, or megapascals. Yeah, now I just need to maintain this and keep it up for an hour. There, it's been about an hour. It's jumped in between a little below 0.1 and it's above 0.1 for around an hour. So I'm going to let the fire die back down, and then I'm going to throw water over the coals. It takes a long while, and a lot of attention, and throwing the logs in and blowing and taking them out when it's too much. And I'm gonna invest in butane. I just scattered the ashes from this previous week. I've been burning a lot of firewood, so this ash has been building up. And generally, this land is pretty acidic, so I'm also making an experiment here. See if it does anything. And from using so much wood to sterilize, I essentially made a bunch of biochar. So I'm going to try to clean this up and scatter it in the garden as well. And here's all that got burnt. Wow. And here I just scattered the remains and I'm covering it back up. Hopefully this will work as biochar. So it's been 8 days and I'm ready to go back to Vilnius. Need to make more food, like bread, do laundry, and buy some more things. Next week I'll have a volunteer coming over, aka a friend. So I caught a ride to Mostninka, the closest town, and then I was there a half hour early. I didn't want to wait, so I started hitchhiking, and now I'm right before the highway to Vilnius. Hopefully someone stops for me. Stop for me, cars!